Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be doing the stifle or the genual joint. First thing to take note of is that you should be able to see, once you've skinned your cat, you should be able to see these big arteries and veins that are running along the leg of the cat. So here we're going to have the femoral artery and vein. You can see those really well on this leg here. The vein is really bright blue. If you go to this other leg, you can actually see the artery a little bit better over here. It's more of a bright red, and the vein didn't get dyed very well on this side. And then right next to this artery and vein, we also have the femoral nerve. So those three, the nerve, the artery, and the vein, are kind of in a bundle together here, and they're going to run along the thigh of the cat. So when you're doing this dissection, you want to pick a leg and try to preserve as much of the muscle as you can when we're cutting off this leg. Here is the actual stifle joint or the genual joint of the cat. And what we want to do is we want to favor the proximal end of the cat. So we want to cut up kind of high on the femur of this cat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scalpel first, and I'm going to cut a perfect circle around that thigh of the cat. And I'm once again going to try to preserve as much muscle as I can when cutting this leg off. So you want to cut all the way down to the femur until you hit that bone. The other side here. You're going to have to cut pretty deep before you hit the femur. There, I finally hit the femur. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to take these tools called bone shears, and we're going to take it in there, and we're going to cut a little bit more off here on the front side. Find that femur really good in there. Okay. I'm going to take these bone shears, go right in there. It's going to make a pretty good crunch, get a good squeeze in, and okay. So when I cut this leg off here, you should be able to see the femoral artery right here on the inside, that bright red. And then when I take my leg, I should be able to see the muscle groups in the leg. So you can see all the hamstring muscles on the bottom side and the quadricep muscles on the top side. So now really what I want to do is I want to take and I want to peel back all this fascia on top here. And actually you're going to be able to cut all this off. And really what we're trying to do here is we're really just going to clean up this leg so that you're able to get, we want to get all the way down to the bone. Okay, so now I've cleaned this up just a little bit more so that you're able to see the actual stifle joint of the cat right here. And then I want to take my tweezers. This will help save your fingers just a little bit when you're doing this. We want to take the tweezers and peel back as much of this muscle as we can on top. And we want to make it all the way to that joint capsule. So once again, here's our little femur bone right here on top, and we can peel back all this muscle all the way till I find that joint capsule. And I've actually gotten into the joint. And then what you can do next is come to the bottom here, and we have the Achilles tendon at the bottom of the tibia and fibula, sorry. And I'm going to actually just cut that. And I'm going to peel all that muscle up. And you should be able to see some arteries in here. And there's also a big nerve that runs right down the middle of there. Actually, if you're playing sports, or if you would happen to tear your ACL, MCL, if you break any bones in there, actually if you damage these arteries that are in here, that can be very life-threatening. Okay, now I've got my leg cleaned up just a little bit more. You can actually get into this joint capsule here, and you're gonna see the little patella. So that is the cutest of all bones, because it is. So there's the patella, and then what you're gonna see is all this yellow tissue that's down in here. This is actually the meniscus. So that's a cushion that goes in between those joints to help so it's not bone rubbing on bone. Okay, and we're back. Fast forward with a little help of some video editing. I have cleaned off this cat joint, this stifle joint, a little bit more, so that you guys are going to want to clean up the leg until you're basically down to the bone. And you guys, you need to be really careful when you're actually cleaning this up. So the tibia and fibula are not actually fused on a cat like they are in a horse and a cow. And so it's really easy to break this fibula off when you're cleaning these muscles off and pulling all the muscles. It's really easy to break that bone. And what's kind of unique about a cat, and actually also in humans too, you can see that there is a little bit of twisting motion when I twist it, that these two bones are actually not separating. And so we have the cranial and caudal tibiofibular ligament, and what that actually does is keeps these two bones from separating. And if there's an injury to that ligament, that's what we call a high ankle sprain in people. I don't know if you guys have ever had one, but I have before, and they are extremely painful. Okay, so I'm sure that you guys have heard a little bit about ACLs in humans, or you have your PCLs. So in animals, once again, we have cranial and caudal, and how they tell if you have a tear in one of these ligaments is they can do an anterior drawer test. And what they can do is you have your cranial and caudal cruciate ligaments, and what those do is they sort of cross. Cruciate means cross, and what that does is that's really stabilizing this knee. So, and then you have medial and lateral collaterals on the sides of your knees, and that's really going to help stabilize so that your knee is not able to move side to side. And as of right now, I'm sure that you can tell, even when I'm moving these, there's not a lot of movement going on in between the joint, and that's because all these ligaments are still attached in the knee. And so what we want to do is we want to take our scalpel, and like I said earlier, if you open up this joint capsule, you're going to see some yellow stuff right here at the top. That's just your meniscus. And it really, like I said, is just that cushion for the joint. And so what we want to do is we want to get past that, and we want to get down into the knee. And then the first ligament that's going to be on the top is this cranial cruciate ligament right there on the top. And what we want to do, so this is what we call the ACL on humans. And so we're going to take our scalpel and we're going to go in there, we're going to cut that. Kind of have to go in there a little bit deep. So we're going to cut that ligament. Let me go in and make sure I actually got it cut. Okay. And then what this ligament does is it stops your tibia and fibula from moving forward, or cranial. So it stops it from moving. And mine's just cut just a little bit. You can just tell that there is some movement. So we want to secure the femur, and we can move the tibia and fibula. Can go in and what might help you guys, if you hyperflex your knee, so if you hyperflex the tibia and fibula, you should be able to get in there and see it a little bit more. I'm going to go in and just give it another cut here, make sure I got it. Some people that have had knee problems in the past and have ever torn their ACL, this is probably going to be a painful lab for you guys because it's going to bring up some bad memories. Okay, so now that I've done that, you should be able to see there's a lot more movement in the knee. And then if we want to go ahead and cut the PCL on the backside, a lot of times you can just hyperflex your knee. So if you just bend it, oh, yep, there it went. And cut the backside or the bottom. So the caudal cruciate ligament, then you're really going to be able to see a dramatic movement in those ligaments, or in the movement in the knee. And that's the easiest way. You also, when you're hyperextending, depending on, you can actually break at the growth plate. If you hyperextend too much, you can actually get breakage of that growth plate that's in there in the bone. So now that that I have cut the PCL, the ACL, you can see that there's huge dramatic movement in the knee. And also in hyperflexing, I have also torn the lateral and medial. And so there's also a lot of movement from side to side as well. Okay guys, and one last point that I would like to make before we call it quits for the day. So when we're talking about if you ever get a leg like this, especially on your lab practical, and you have to identify which leg this actually is. So the fibula is always going to be on the lateral side of the leg. So on that outside of the leg, medial side towards the inside, middle of the cat, lateral on the outside. So that fibula is always going to be on the outside, so I can tell that this is the right leg of the cat. Okay guys, that is it for today. If you have any questions, please bring them to lab with you, and I will see you guys this week. Thanks!